Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of the Regen Civics Accelerator and Alliance, whatever we're calling this thing, still coming together. What we're going to do is just do a real quick round of 30-second intros. If you haven't introduced yourself to the community yet, that's quite all right. There'll be spaces in the upcoming calls to do that. And today's call, Sydney had asked to dive into more of the NFTs, art, and what that looks like for doing the crowdfunding, crowd pooling for this alliance itself. So to start that conversation, and we can dive into all that good stuff right after she does her setting the stage for it. So we'll do a quick round of intros, then we'll pass it to Sydney to dive into NFTs and art, and then we'll let that conversation unfold. Does anyone else have anything to add to the agenda today? That was a lot. We're good. Then we'll go from there and see where it takes us. So I will send it over to Sydney. We'll kick you off. You can do an intro and then we'll come back to you at the end and you can pass it to anyone else.
Thanks, Reiki. Hi, everyone. Wonderful to see your faces or to feel your energy if your video is not on. I am a part of Permatours, which is a decentralized organization inspired by seeds. We wrote a grant and got a bunch of crypto to distribute to contributors of sustainable construction and permaculture projects. And those individuals can use those seeds to buy products and services from all the communities we visit. And we're working on building and growing that network. And I'm also working on a platform whereby NFT art can serve as fundraising vehicles for causes in need. So I'm really excited to talk to you guys about how that platform could support all of our projects and all the other amazing platforms out there that provide that service of NFT art, helping drive resources to where they're needed. And I'll pass it to Tucker.
Thank you, Sid. My name is Tucker. I live up in the Northeast, just down the road from Sid. I founded a community group called Tioga last year, and we've kind of become a catalyst for other potential communities up here in the Northeast. And we've been working with older generational farmland owners to kind of start the process of granting their land into a trust with the intention of turning it into a community one day. And I've also been working with John Story at Dao House to kind of create some tokenization minting processes and governance options for those communities. And I'll pass on to whoever's next. Brandon, how about you?
All right, how's everyone doing? My name is Brandon. We have an organization named ESSA, and what we focus is on selling and brokering smart villages or regenerative villages, eco-villages. And we're going to be in the next 3 weeks. We should be able to, we're actually launching our NFT for the next project here in Bali, Indonesia. So today's very fitting. It's cool to hear that. Also, there's another really cool project that just came across, but it's called Satoshi Island. I don't know if anybody's seen this one. I'll send the link in the chat, but this one's really, really sweet. I love what they're doing with it. And I think that we're really at the beginning of, creating more of these types of NFT utility tokens. So anyway, I'll pass it on. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Thanks. My name is Caitlin Arshimo, or you can call me Katie. I'm founder of Open Future Coalition. And we've recently, in the end of last year, launched the private alpha of our open impact platform, which is kind of our first effort. And our aim is really to build tools and make them accessible to those that are already on the ground working together to solve the world's hardest problems, help them coordinate more effectively, measure their progress as they go, and get those efforts resourced through a multi-capital lens of capital, skills, and knowledge. I'm really excited about this group and looking forward to diving in further.
And you passed it to Jamaica because why not?
Oops. Okay.
Because why not? Hi, everybody. Reiki, thanks for pulling all this together. I'm excited to meet you all. I am a co-founder with Caitlin of Open Future Coalition, and particularly focused on our culture and our governance and our community building and partnership building. Along with the platform that Katie mentioned, we've also been growing this rich ecosystem of partnerships and looking to create that sort of many-to-many pattern swell of organizations and efforts and projects working in common, and really movement building to see how we can sort of link these governance and economic frameworks to sort of support swell efforts. So we've got several key areas where we've been convening in areas of things like regenerative water, agroforestry, and regenerative agriculture. We're starting to swarm action in the Amazon, working in sort of civic infrastructure, working to convene people around funding the transition, and sort of just bridge building across different efforts, and then looking how we can apply bioregional prototypes and focusing on partnerships on the ground, and then coming back and sort of building the systems, but doing that from sort of a groundswell to transform systems and then apply in place and prototype as rapidly as we can. So that's sort of part of my focus and what we're up to complement what Katie shared. And yeah, happy to keep jamming with you all on what we can build together. Thank you.
And she passed it to Neil.
And I'm going to pass it to John. Sorry, okay, I'm passing it to John.
Hey guys, my name's Johnny D. Hopefully that was this John and maybe not another John. And if not, I'll pass it to him. I wrote a white paper back in 2017 called Dao House about the way to do management of a physical asset via Dao. Have been working at the convergence of that, of kind of real estate and cryptocurrency for the last couple of years. Have a physical space where I was looking to implement governance models and new ways, circular economy sort of processes down in Puerto Rico, and just looking to build tools and help empower other groups that are doing the same and build kind of like sister city network type of communities and get involved in other people's processes as we all kind of lift the earth together. And I'm not exactly sure who has it, but I would like to pass it to Tucker if he is not gone yet.
I did just go, so I guess we'll go on to Lucian.
Hey guys, sorry I'm on the move with my daughter here, but Lucian, I delighted to have been here from the beginning with Reiki, and based in Ibiza, and I started something called the United Planet game, which is basically an immersive reality game all around developing the narrative, number one, and the alliances and collaborations necessary to achieve that narrative. And so very excited to be involved on storytelling and that layer of the accelerator. So, and I'll pass it on to, I don't know, has everyone gone, Reiki?
Neil.
Neil. Hey, Neil. I'll pass it back to you.
Hey, Lucian, thanks. I'm Neil, I'm in DC, and I'm going to post a message that so we have our Regen Civics Discord that Ryan Fix started, and I just added some categories and channels so that everyone who's sharing something has a dedicated channel to share, whether it's in an alliance, it's their project, it's a model project they've seen, or like even a tokenomics model. Like I was gonna tour of something called Townstar, which is this whole, has anyone heard of Townstar? It's like they're selling NFT assets on land for like $250,000 in a completely digitized world that basically like, it's like if Seeds could build a digital version of itself. It's the closest I've seen to applying NFT to real estate, but it's all basically made up. But if you could apply that to the real world. And so, you know, discussions like this, having this on Discord of your own projects, Townstar. Yeah. And so if you go to the Discord link and you go to the categories, I just literally added it 10 seconds ago on the tokenomics models under Townstar. I'm literally writing a little description of it. Just learned about it yesterday. So that's it. And I passed it on. Is that everyone gone, Reiki?
T hasn't gone, and Sahana.
Yeah. I'll go with T.
Hey everyone. Currently sick with COVID, so gonna be brief. Yeah, just here to really become part and collaborate with more people. My background's in spatial evaluation of ecosystem services and spatial analytics. So GIS, IoT, georeference imagery for boots on the ground, getting those to really measure and verify the impact that great communities have in terms of the benefits from these regenerative actions.
And that's over to Sahana.
Yes. Hey everyone, I'm Sahana. I work, I'm visible. Yes, I'm visible now. I'm Sahana. I work on Celestial Labs. It's a platform to help onboard and share context with people interested in contributing to DAOs and just really helping people move from classic or traditional Web2, whatever you're going to call it, existing systems into new modes of just more efficient operation and incentivization enabled by Web3. Celesta, I can type that in the chat. Yeah. Great to meet you all.
And thank you. And last one, we've got Reggie, and then we'll kick it off for today.
Sorry, I'm late. It's early here in New Zealand. My main focus is on working with Māori leaders and others on legal rights for nature. So there was a river in New Zealand, the Wanganui River, which was through a treaty settlement process was granted personhood, or the river owns itself. And so the idea is, how can we have nature own more equity in companies and also serve on the board of companies. And I think it's part of like a regenerative living, and seems like one aspect of it would be that people who live in regenerative communities would actually give to the earth or give to the bioregion that they live in. So that's my focus.
Awesome. Thanks, Reggie. Sahana, I'm wondering if I was cutting you off or if you finished your check-in or not.
No, we were good. I got a message on Zoom, and so I got distracted of replying to that. But no, I was good.
Okay, perfect. Great. So we're going to kick it off for today. And the first thing we want to talk about is, I'll give a quick overview of where we're at. Let me change the view here.
Right, I just want to say hello. I've arrived a little bit late.
Oh, sure. Check in, Will, and then we'll get going.
Yeah, hello everyone. I missed everyone's intros, but I just want to declare that today I'm showing up to represent CAR, a project here in Costa Rica at McCaw Lodge. It's a 1,000-acre property, and they're interested in using the DHO to launch their village project. And yeah, just want to plant that seed and show up and see where Reiki takes us all.
Thanks, Will. All right, so let's bring us back to our good trusty document of everything. And here's our roadmap. Where are we at today? So March, we're planning on, and it still looks like we're going to be making that, on the equinox. So that's on the 20th is to when we're actually going to launch this alliance and then go through the official process of picking all the member organizations. If you're unfamiliar with that, you can watch the last recording where we got into that in detail, which you can find on this tab right here, where it says governance and finance structure. So you can catch this for a recap of what was going on there. Cool, but then our plan was, once we set that up, then we're going to crowdfund for RCI itself, which is to support us as an alliance of organizations. And then we'll go through the process of what do we do with that pool of funds, and then start directing it to each one of our member organizations. Part of that crowdfunding is regenerative art. So putting together a bunch of art pieces and then selling those art pieces and using that to fund our efforts here. So this is the conversation we're at today. And I'm going to pass it then to Sydney, who's been kind of leading on the Regen art side and the NFT art and all that fun stuff. So I'll pass it to her and see where she wants to take this.
Thank you. Yeah. And I know a lot of us here are working on a lot of projects that could support and fund each other's efforts. So I'm totally open to cross-pollinating, working together, merging, and figuring out how we can best support. But as you all probably know at this point, NFTs can have incredibly powerful utility. And so what I'm working on is a platform that supports causes with working with artists to create art that represents the causes, and then inviting the community to influence which pieces are minted to fundraise for that cause. And each NFT will have its own unique utility supporting that fundraising effort or connected to the artist. And then every single NFT purchased on this particular platform I'm working on will have its own DAO, where people can work together to manage a social impact fund or a percentage of the revenue that comes in from the sale of these NFTs. So as far as like where this platform is with development, it doesn't really matter because there's so many different platforms out there where NFT art can be sold. But as far as letting these different eco-villages and communities know the power of NFTs, I'm super passionate about that. So we can, approach these groups that we're working with, let them know the potential for an artist to work with them to represent or to submit a piece that represents the cause and the mission, and then work together as a community to drive buyers to that art. And also, like I mentioned, again, just to reiterate, support that community with developing a utility whereby those who are buying the pieces can verify their ownership of their NFTs and then access powerful community building opportunity, collaboration opportunity, wealth building opportunity, et cetera. So I'm going to pause there because I don't want to take over talking about what I'm particularly building. I'd love to just like hear where everyone is with this space, how they see NFT art and the utility of their NFTs supporting their community. And we can just kind of have an open conversation if that works for you all.
So when we're talking about NFTs, is it the traditional like art piece, or are we talking about unique data records like that could have data information about these different communities? What is the portrayal in this?
That's a good question. As I'm sure you guys know, NFTs can be really anything, but right now they're starting to enter the mainstream through art, kind of like really cool artistic membership ID cards. But I think it could be really anything. I think it's also about appealing to the community where we're going to be reaching out. Also the community that's supporting the eco-village or land-based project as well and what they're looking for.
When did it typically, I don't know.
I'll kind of pop in on some ideas that I've had with NFTs. Most of my NFTs have been thinking about through like land titles, but not necessarily just land titles. All kind of legal documents are kind of put into that, of which goes down into as small of like NFTing, a room in one of the buildings, or one of the fields, or even the tools could be done as NFT if there was going to need to be some sort of like checkout system. Or so I've been thinking of some of those utilities of them. But I particularly love the art portion of them. Like if say your room was being pre-sold as an NFT, you would be able to submit and put the artwork. Imagine like you being able to choose your room based upon the artwork in the room that was also denoted via NFT. And that ideally at one time, your space in a physical space will actually have a digital mirror in one of the metaverses somewhere. And that would probably also be like a linking key between the two spaces. I think is a kind of fun NFT use case.
I love that example. And as an alliance, of course, our mission here is to support these land-based projects and eco-villages with fundraising. So I think as far as how we support them best, it's hearing from them. Like, who are the artists in your community? How do you depict what you're trying to build? What is your vision? And what would make most sense? I think it's going to be very much a case-by-case thing. But I love that, John, of the very particular kind of specific use case where you're digitizing specific value, digitizing specific offerings. That's awesome.
And I am slightly interested if people in this group know of, because a lot of it is vision painting, right? What I've experienced is some of these spaces, they're rough and they're looking for, improvement, and some of those vision spaces being painted as NFTs, being like, this is what it is now, but this is what it can become. I also think is a really powerful use of that NFT, of allowing people to buy into that culture that you're, helping push forward and want to see come to fruition.
Caitlin, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in exploring further the use of NFTs through more of this fundraising for impact efforts frame. Quick context on how we've been approaching NFTs so far is we've basically been creating kind of project portfolios based on an individual impact project. And so at the time of minting, we're essentially packaging together contextually aware packets of data. And so essentially any documentation of the impact that was generated, multiple step verification, any measurements, where it was created, by whom, every person who collaborated. And so you have this sort of contextually aware, mintable, measurable impact. That's not as fun as a lot of the ways that NFTs have been used. We've really been looking at it as a pure utility, as a mechanism to interact with existing capital markets. So what does it look like to basically package that NFT and then lock that, transfer it to sort of a liquidity token that can then participate in emerging markets around ecosystem services and such, but without diluting the network that we're building itself. And so it's sort of a Robin Hood play. At the same time, that again, I think lacks some of the interactivity that we would love to see. And so I've been really curious about what sort of collectibles or pieces of art that are relevant to those areas of impact can then be exchanged at that moment of minting as well. And it sounds like what you're really tackling here is that additional stream to sort of fund these efforts up front philanthropically, leveraging that art, which I think is an incredible idea as well. So just excited to explore that further.
Wow, that's so many amazing points. Thank you so much. Reggie, I saw your hand up, and then Tucker, and then Brandon.
Yeah. I just wanted to share like another project which I thought could be connected. There's a group called Bright Moments, and they're running events in different cities around the world. I think they've done 2 or 3 so far. And pretty much what they do is they kind of combine the minting of an NFT with a ceremony. So there's like music, and they have these big venues, and then you walk up this like long, like sort of like red carpet or something like that. And you kind of walk up these stairs and you get to the top of the thing, and then there's like music playing and stuff like that. And you hit a button, and there's like this whole experience, and then it like mints the NFT, and then you're part of that community. So the kind of the combination of this ceremony plus like the NFT minting. And I was thinking it could be really powerful to do that, like in particular places around the world where like you work with the indigenous people of that place, you do this like in nature, and you incorporate some of those like ceremonies, and then you bring like the community into being with like the full-time residents and part-time residents through this like ceremony, and then you link that experience with that NFT. So I've been talking about that with the group that with Bright Moments that runs these things today. And yeah, so just thought that could be one way to kind of bring these communities into more life. And linking
so amazing. Wow. Sorry to interrupt, but it's just like we're building these powerful experiences on land, and now you're talking about those experiences triggering the minting of an NFT. Like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And then ideally, what people pay quite a bit to be part of it. And then some percentage of that would go to the indigenous people, some percent would go to regenerate the land, some percent would go to regenerate the land in the village itself, or maybe a pretty significant percentage. So it could be a way to link people who are starting these communities with the land itself, and then create this like ceremony, which is really powerful. Yeah, so that's an idea.
Thanks. Tucker?
So got a couple different use cases coming to mind during this conversation. Initially, Tioga, our community, had decided to use NFTs as kind of a way to represent equitable ownership in the trust for all of our community members. And that would be like, exchangeable, so you have like an easy exit path for your equity. But another thing that we've been juggling with is like getting sponsors, like to financially sponsor some of our community members that can't afford the equity buy-in right up front. And so I'm thinking that maybe NFTs, as far as fundraising for a community, could be a cool way to, like you said, with art, raise funds, but also tie like exchangeable utilities into those NFTs. So like, let's say you have somebody that wants to help fundraise this community. Well, maybe they buy this NFT that also has this like retreat package tied into it that they can exchange for like, a weekend retreat on the community once it's like up and running, or other services that the community offers. So I think tying, redeemable utilities into those NFTs for the sponsors would be a really good way to do it.
The whole what?
Lucian, Tucker, I love it. Is that it? Did you want to close that?
Yeah, that was kind of the end of my train of thought there.
Sweet. Ricky, I'll let you say bye.
Unfortunately, I have to run in 1 minute, everyone. So I'm passing to Sydney to facilitate the last half hour of this, and I'll watch the recording. But plug out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ricky. And Brandon, you're next.
All right. So what we've been playing around with here on the project in Bali, we're basically focusing on the NFTs for house sales and development. So we have, each house is averaging right around 70,000 US dollars. We broke that down to about 350 NFTs, about $200 per NFT. And so that will build basically the first house. Once that first house is built, all those NFTs will then go over to the DHO, in which they can sit there and say, hey, how do we want to operate this, this rental unit? Let's call it a rental unit. Because on this project, it's all on lease contracts. So we actually write the lease contract on behalf of the DAO. And that's how we're able to kind of govern that. So inside what they kind of have different, we want to kind of keep it simple. So we offer them to, hey, do they want to receive do like a multi-signature wallet where they can receive a payout? Do they want to, reinvest it, put it in a permaculture garden? And that's kind of facilitated there. Now, the nice thing is that obviously there's a treasury involved because of the rental unit. So then that's what they vote on. They vote on, hey, what that money is then used from the rental income to, put back into the project. So yeah, that's kind of roughly what we're doing for the Knicks. We can do up to 30 plus villas on that project. But our goal is, so each phase, we want to kind of also bring another tool in, is like gamifying it. So if we can sell, the first 3 villas, we can come in and put in a greenhouse. The next 5 villas, we're going to be doing like a music stage, jungle music stage. And then we have a whole list of different types of communal areas that could be added, ultimately increasing the value of the NFT and also of the, of the rental. So yeah, that's kind of everyone has like a fractional ownership of it. $200 is a lot easier for people to afford, and also just maybe want to support a really cool, dope project. So yeah, that's
so cool. Lucian, I think you put your hand up. Do you still want to share?
Sure, thanks, Sydney. I did. Sorry, I'm just driving, so I'll keep the video off. But I was saying I wanted to say one community I'm aware of. Just a moment, please, darling. One community I know of is called the Vision Train. Amanda Sage started it, and it's a whole group of artists, visionary artists, that have been painting non-stop basically since COVID began. It's a non-stop Zoom room. And they partner with the RegenEric, the design science studio. And so we at United Planet have spoken about partnering to create 16 art pieces that are kind of creating visions of the future. And that could be something we could look to have like a formal partner with. Okay, just a minute, darling. I'm going to leave it there, Sydney, because I'm just in, as you can see, juggling.
That was amazing. And I love the singing in the background. It really set the stage for that incredible opportunity or partnership opportunity. Anyone else want to share how they're leveraging or planning to leverage NFTs or different NFT platforms to fundraise for their ecovillages or connected projects?
Will there be a sort of round of questions? I'm finding that I want to dig into
Right?
some of these too.
I feel like, I mean, I think that would definitely be wonderful. I think the way Neil set up our Discord would be perfect because we can all go there, share what we're working on, share how we're planning to leverage NFTs to fundraise. I think one thing that I'd love to chat with you all about is just how we want to use our collective energy to support each other. And I think that's kind of the impetus for coming together, is this alliance is really powerful and far reaching together. And we have so many things that align. So how can we best support each other? And obviously the idea is we're going to be fundraising together. We're going to be supporting with hands-on deck, in-person infrastructure support, development at these festivals. But as we kind of pivot to this part of the conversation, and maybe we will have time at the end, Reggie, for questions. Does anyone have anything to add there as far as like how we leverage our collective power? I know we still are in the process of deciding the 12 eco-villages that will use or be the first ones to leverage this network, and its consulting. So.
Hello.
Hi.
I know the missing link that I personally am looking for to bridge the gap with these eco-villages and projects that I feel super aligned and connected to and want to bring in, is the actual journey to setting up and configuring the DHO. I did a demonstration yesterday and showed them what it looks like using Hypha's DHO. But what is the actual journey? You know, like, is there a 10-step process to activating a DHO? And what are the various different options to program it? I know that you can pretty much set it up to be a dictator or a 100% consensus threshold and all the things in between. So that's what I'm trying to grasp right now. The whole idea of how we can utilize NFTs, I think we're all aware of, you know, the different ways. And I'm kind of tired of the conversation because it's the same thing over and over again. Oh, we can make art. We can create an NFT treehouse in the metaverse and someone can experience it and love it and buy it. And then it becomes real. You know, like we've had these conversations. We're aware of the power of it. And personally, I'm most interested in how do we program and set up the DHO for these various projects that want to join this movement.
Thank you, William. That was a powerful point. I'm with you. TR, did you want to share? And then Caitlin?
Yeah, so I'm creating an NFT platform right now, and I'm tied to a layer 0 solution that is yet to come out. It's in stealth mode right now, but it allows us to have 1 quadrillion NFTs at our disposal, ready to be loaded with data. And we're looking to have more and more of these NFTs be used for better environmental impact and supporting those sorts of actions. So wanting to throw that technology out there. So could potentially start exploring that. The way in which we're doing continued support through our NFTs is that we're measuring and verifying the benefits these actions have, and then dynamically updating the NFTs over time. So for example, a tree sequesters more carbon over time. And if you're able to dynamically measure and verify the amount of carbon sequestered, that NFT can increase in value over time. So it's not just a donation, it's a circular funding mechanism.
Incredible. So cool. I'd love to talk more about that. Caitlin?
First, that's incredible. And that's so directly aligned with how we've been looking at it. So really excited to explore intersections there. What I've just been sort of listening for in this conversation is kind of what does that interoperable stack look like, where there's sort of this consistent user journey for participating organizations, kind of how can we best map together where there are different options or decision-making points, right? There's kind of that behavior layer. And so what options are maybe we offering to them to choose to participate in sort of this form of measurement or this other? There's sort of that kind of additional sort of behavior or decision-making layer around kind of the value, right, of particular things. Then there's this funding layer, which I find really interesting, that some of our efforts are focused on this preemptive funding. You know, how do we then, you know, have art, whether it's art or something else that's coming from outside that can then inject kind of funds into these regenerative efforts. And then others of us are looking at how can then the measurement of those very efforts kind of create that spiral of then funding themselves. And I think that there could be, I'll leave it at that, but just sort of, I've been looking at sort of that push and pull, and I'm curious about how those can work beautifully together. And then I think there's also some additional kind of third layers around everything from interactivity with revolving loans to some other kind of funding structures that could kind of sit in the middle of this.
I love that. Just to ground the conversation, and for those of you who are new, I feel like where we are right now, and please feel free to chime in, those of you who have been with us, where we are is we're in the process of setting up this alliance and our framework for collaboration to support 12 eco-villages. And we're in the process of receiving applications so that we can identify those 12 that make the most sense, where we can deliver and support in the greatest capacity. And then the next step, like William spoke to, is supporting with Dao consulting and setup, education, and using the tools that we have available to us, including Haifa. And then the next step would be supporting with their fundraising efforts, which a lot of us want to leverage NFTs, so that's great. And then after that would be driving the hands-on support through the festivals. So I think it would be really good to return to William's note about Dao support and implementation because of your background, William, as a software developer, because of your relationship with Seeds and Haifa, because you're connected to the Haifa tool, and because Starseed is such an amazing case study or example of one of these DAOs. If you want to speak to that and how we could prepare to support eco-villages like Starseed.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So my phone was playing up and I was on mute. Can you reframe the question? I've just been joined by this human.
Hi.
Gabby is from Momentum Collective and is leading the project CAR that I mentioned at the beginning of this call. I'm looking to represent here. It's a 1,000-acre property in Costa Rica, a beautiful eco-village called Macau Lodge. It's fully off-grid, self-sustainable, and it's been grown over the last 30 years from cow pasture, which almost nothing, to this really, really beautiful home that we're looking to ground in. And they're a potential candidate for being one of the first 12 to join the cohort. Yeah, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself at all, but we're just about to talk about the process of onboarding the 12 projects into the DAO, what that looks like.
Yeah. I'm here to listen, but we're after the presentations with you and the universe. I think we're really keen on just understanding that onboarding process in general as well.
Yeah. So yesterday we did a presentation on the universe and the DHO, and it's like a full body fuck yes. But the question is, what journey do we take these people on? So first of all, this is the application. It's meeting the criteria. It's saying, as an alliance, yes, this is a project that we want as part of the 12 or the first 12 to launch. But then what? You know, what does the consultation look like? How do we program that DHO? Is there a 12-step process, a 10-step process? I don't know. This is where I feel Reiki would be leading the answers. He's set up obviously Hyper's DHO and I think 5 other betas. Lucian maybe has even more information than me because he has one with Star and United Planet.
Yeah. So maybe we open it up then to those of you who are applying right now to be one of the 12, or those of you who have set up a DAO, how we can go about this process to add the most value possible.
Yeah, Lucian, can you speak into your experience with the DHO for Star?
Yeah, I certainly can for United Planet. Yeah, we just really been waiting for the new update. I think a lot. But we minted the first batch, 14.4 million stars, which is a kind of a token inside the up game. It's like a reward mechanism. But we haven't formally launched the DAO. Our thinking was we were going to do this with this Regenerative Civics Accelerator. So I can't, other than seeing, obviously the Hyper DAO and then the Hyper Do, and then how Seed is using it, I haven't onboarded as such myself yet. But I've seen a lot of the documentation and like the archetypes, and there's a lot to dive into that's already written. And that's probably a good place to start. And there's that video, actually. I think even, well, you sent it to me. There's a really good video that Reiki shared. Maybe you could share that link here.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. How to DHO. So it's an hour and 10-minute video that talks about all of the different. Well, I don't know if it goes into everything, but it's a high-level overview of the powers and the functionality of the DHO and how it could be set up. But what's still missing is the actual journey to doing, like what, ready? You want to activate your DHO? Here's step one.
Yeah, so
Here's
there's
step two.
actually, there's a
That
DAO
journey.
within Seed.
And I think Reiki is the man that has the answer.
Oh, sorry, you cracked up on me. There's actually a DAO within the Seeds community that supports DAO creation in Seed. So I'm definitely going to reach out to them as well. Tucker, I saw your hand up as well.
Yeah, so this has been an issue that I've been juggling with the past couple months myself with my project. And something I've started working on with John for what we're doing with DAO House is actually like a fully in-depth onboarding survey for all of these projects to go through. And basically the idea of the survey is to gather all of the data points necessary to understand the specific project, and then literally create like an automated system that creates all of their like legal contracts and stuff ready for a DAO. So like there's probably like, I don't know, 100 different ways that we could structure a community for a DAO. And so I'm trying to boil them down into like, a set of 100 or some odd questions that, a community could just kind of sit down and go through to determine how they wanted it to be structured. And then at the end of it, boom, their contracts for their trust or LLC or whatever they're going to use are printed out, and it's all ready to go, and then send them right to their preferred DAO tool, whether that be the Hypha DAO tool or like a project like DAO House, or, there's a bunch of DAO tools out there. The problem with the Hypha DAO tool, having it not be released yet, it's hard for us to kind of see how that's going to work without actually going through that process right up front. But I also think that, as being, some of these first 12 projects going through this process, we're not going to have, a completely streamlined way to do it the first time. And so it's kind of our responsibility to figure that out and develop it and figure out like, what are the different decisions that every project's going to have to make, and how are they going to structure this? How are they going to structure that? And once we've kind of asked all those questions, we can put it into a really cohesive onboarding mechanism for these projects.
Yeah, and I know another thing that we were figuring out too is how we're going to keep track of the efforts of those that are supporting each of these eco-villages and compensation and that kind of framework conversation. And Caitlin, I saw your note in the chat as far as like tools aside, what experiences and incentives are we hoping to empower? And I know a lot of us have been brought together here because we're doing regenerative earth healing work. We have land-based projects that are interested in decentralized governance. I know many of us are trying to kind of nurture and steward this regenerative renaissance and building a new civilization. But I think what Reiki actually asked me to do when he departed the call was to come together here to try to make a decision or propose potential platforms that we can collectively use to fundraise for these different initiatives with NFTs. So that's one action item, is where can we all do that? And then secondarily, what we're talking about here is how can we best support these eco-villages with their DAO development? And I think we all have a lot of experience to bring to the table. Like I mentioned, there's a DAO in Seeds that specifically does this. So I think they should be a part of the conversation. And then I think it should be made clear, like what Reiki mentioned at the beginning of the call is who will be, or last call too, is who will be representing the eco-villages here, and then who from the eco-villages will be like attending as the kind of like external link, like an internal and external link. But Tucker, is there a new hand up, or oh, okay, it's an old
I left it up. I do have another comment to make though.
Okay.
So I think, you know, if you've gone through and you've watched Reiki's video about, you know, how to do the video that William was referencing, one of the first steps that he talks about is going through as a project and kind of choosing those like overlapping circles of responsibility and those roles, and then kind of just your arc of like how you'd like certain decisions to be made. And until the actual tool is released and we all have access to it, I think that's the best thing that we can be putting our time to as, you know, individual projects with our groups, just discussing, you know, how do we want to make decisions and what those kind of overlapping circles are going to look like.
Totally. Awesome. So we have about 10, or no, actually the call ends at 2:15, but I know a lot of people have to leave at 2. Did we want to talk about how we're going to collectively leverage NFTs? Or I know, William, you weren't super down for that conversation. You want to talk about DAO implementation and value there?
Yeah, but I also respect what Tucker said. He's right. You know, the tool isn't ready for someone just to click a button and activate it and go through their own journey. That's what we're laying the foundation for. And through these 12, we're going to find out the patterns and the things that are common, that, you know, to simplify it, to make it as easy as clicking a button and setting one up.
Right.
So yeah, I'll allow the collective to decide what direction this conversation goes in for the rest of the 10 minutes.
Yeah, Brandon.
Yeah, I it's good to see you, Will.
You too.
Yeah, things. So yeah, there's many different platforms. Obviously, you can do this through OpenSea. We've been seeing some. You can do like INOs, initial NFT offerings on Mir.xyz. But there's a bit of a strategy with the NFTs. I've been talking to a lot of the influencers in the space, and usually the most successful campaigns, obviously we want to do this more organically, and not just try and sell out in the first couple of minutes, but NFTs are having a trend to try and sell out as quick as possible to show success in the actual campaign. One of the strategies we're actually doing, because we already have existing real estate there, one of the bamboo houses, we've already built one. So we're actually going to take that first one and then do that as like a handout, or, you know, give these away to, you know, let's say influential people. You know, I once we get that, I'd like to obviously offer this to you guys, because now it's like everyone has a little bit of skin in the game and is like, oh yeah, I own this place, you know. And so it just, I think it makes it more exciting as a collective of ownership. So that's some of the strategies we're playing around with right now. And yeah, I think it just takes a collective, and you have to have a big team to be able to push and run some of these successful campaigns.
And that's the thing that we have. We all have community, and together, I don't think we're going to have a problem at all. Oh, Caitlin, go ahead.
Oh, you can go ahead after I have a separate.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I'm just looking to clarify and get specific here around, on one hand, I can sometimes be a little bit strong in my opinion that I think that some of the emphasis on particular tools can sometimes give way to extractive patterning and kind of get a little bit on the speculative side. And so always want to kind of recenter to kind of what behaviors are we looking to empower here, and then what are the most appropriate tools. I already shared that in the chat. But then to that end, one, I think NFTs are absolutely one of those tools. DAOs absolutely are one of those tools. And the more specific inquiry I have is that I think we're talking maybe from a systems design perspective on 2 layers. So there's the question of how do we collectively want to apply particular tools to incentivize, organize, and decision make among sort of our organizing pattern, or the organizing pattern of this whole sort of set of folks coming together to support this initial prototype, let's say, of 12 projects. And then there's that layer down around what kind of technical assistance pool do we wish to offer to these projects, where maybe they each have a menu of different options for how to govern themselves, or for how to fund themselves, or how to decision make amongst themselves. And I do see those as kind of two discrete questions that are both really important.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. Every single one of these eco-villages will have a different offering. NFTs aside, each eco-village will provide different value. And so I think the NFTs can be helpful for packaging that value, and so that those who do participate and support financially can verify their ownership and access that value. But you're absolutely right. We're kind of having two conversations here. So as I've taken kind of on this facilitator role, I want to make sure that we're using this time as best as possible. And so for me, I feel like I would love to actually talk more about that, Caitlin, about like the two layered conversation we're having, about the alliance and the value it's offering, and then the value of each individual eco-village, right? Is that what you mean? Right. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, there's people showing up to this call that want to support in the alliance, whether or not their land-based project is one of the 12. Like, I'm one of those individuals because I'm a part of Permator. So there's like 40 different properties in my network. There's not many that are in a position to operate in a decentralized way. So I don't even know if any of the properties I am connected to are going to make sense to be a part of the 12, but I want to support because I want to be able to bring the knowledge and the consulting, everything we're aggregating here to those properties so that they can have more awareness and potentially get closer to operating in a decentralized way. As far as like the alliance itself and how we're going to organize ourselves and how we're going to add value, is anyone here wanting to support with what the alliance delivers, even if their project is not selected? Okay, maybe like use the little emoji or something, okay, cool. That's awesome. Okay. And is anyone simply here to represent their organization and they're not available to support all the different projects? William, you're both.
Yeah, I'm both, but Gabby just said it depends on what support the Regen Civics group are looking for.
Right.
Obviously, she's here to represent CAR and Momentum Collective, but she's also representing the regenerative movement as a whole.
Right.
So.
Right.
And if I can know how to support, I will. I'm wondering in what way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that a lot of our experience setting up DAOs and the obstacles we run into would be helpful to share. I'm a part of the Seeds ecosystem. I'm in the governing body of the Commons, and I'm still figuring it out. I think we're all working towards a true decentralized autonomous organization. So I think the next step would be, what do you guys think? Like, does anyone want to write in the chat the next step? I could keep going on tangents here. I don't want to take over. Yeah.
I would say we also don't need to fill silence and empty space with things if there's nothing really strong and wants to come through.
Yeah, I agree. I can be quiet. And Tucker actually was just going to share.
Okay. So this is kind of going off of what Brandon said. If the conversation is about NFTs, I usually like to end, a conversation like this with like some sort of actionable step. Like what would be the next step to move this process forward? And what I've seen, I'm sure Brandon has seen, that most NFT projects are doing is they're starting to like kind of build momentum before the release. So whether it's through the Regen Civics Incubator Discord, or maybe we create a new one, I think both finding artists and people that want to support these projects and kind of getting them into some sort of organized community so that we can organize better, which artists we're going to be using for the NFTs and like when stuff's going to happen, and just disseminating information that way, and start developing like a whitelist of people that are interested in funding these projects so that when we have our first minting, it's ready to go and we can have that traction already.
I love it. Action items. Maybe we could write action items in the chat that we think would be next steps. I'm going to propose that we leverage Neil's amazing framework for sharing about each of our prospective projects. And maybe we could also share in there different platforms that we think we could collectively utilize to cross-pollinate and expose each other's NFTs to different communities. what other action items? Maybe some information from each person as far as how they want to support the Alliance outside of their eco-village, like how they could add value and support with the consulting or setup. Any other action items? Open Future Coalition, Open Impact, nice. The first prototype, yes, I love that, Caitlin. We need to have like a case study, and I've thrown out Starseed Eco-Village as a great example there because of all that I've been learning about Starseed as Permatours is interested in going there to support with infrastructure and permaculture. A basket toolkit of many tools and approaches that we can offer to support individual projects. I love that too. Sahana shared that she's developing tools for DAOs. Haifa's obviously got tools for DAOs, and there's a lot of others out there too.
Question for Stephen, because him and I and the ministry are working on a full tech stack document that just basically says, hey, this is as a Web 3.0 organization, these are all the tools that we're using or intending to use when they're ready and like further developed, because some of the things like Element on the Matrix blockchain is an alternative to Discord. It's not quite as powerful as Discord yet, but it's on its way. So yeah, Stephen, I just saw you say that you're in a super loud area. Maybe it's not a good time for you to talk, but perhaps you have something you can share about this. This kind of like library that we're preparing to share. Stephen, yes, no? I'll share in a sec when the power goes off. Okay.
Cool. So I'm just typing up the action items in the chat, and then I'll also post them in the Discord. And then hopefully we can come to the next meeting with a bunch more information about each other's projects, how we want to support, the tools we can use for DAO development, the tools we can use for NFT minting, and how we can aggregate all this amazing energy and support each other with our marketing efforts as well. Does that sound good? Awesome. Well, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. As I mentioned, Permatours has a lot of contributors that go to different projects around the world to support. So happy to support in that capacity. And I'm so excited to be on this journey with you all, to be building this regenerative renaissance together and healing in the process. So.
Thank you, Sydney, for facilitating.
Thank you, Jamaica. And whoever said they wanted to share a closing thought, sure.
So that was Tucker, that was me. Just for everybody that is in the Discord, and I'm sure most of us are, if you guys feel comfortable just sharing what you guys already have worked out within your projects for these kind of circles of decisions and responsibilities and how decisions will be made, just like kind of the structure of that would be really helpful for me to understand the different ways to do this so that I can better design this kind of onboarding survey.
Like that, I do.
Beautiful. I love it. Any other closing words, thoughts?
Stephen, is the power washer still on?
All right. Much love, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up and doing what you're doing. I'll speak with you all next week.
Bye all. Bye. Bye all.
Much love.
Bye, everybody.
See you in the Discord.